What's up, YouTube? It's Matt. It's been a long time, guys, and one of the questions that I get asked the most these days, and rightfully so, is, where have you been, man? What are you doing? Why don't you put up YouTube videos anymore? Really, that's a question that requires a two-part answer, and I feel like with all the support that I've been given over the years, doing YouTube, putting up demos, jam tracks, and all that stuff, that I really do owe my supporters who've continued to ask questions and interact with the things that I put up on my channel. I owe you guys an explanation. So, first off, I started YouTube in 2010, and at the time I was playing in a couple bands, nothing huge or anything, but I just kind of wanted something outside of the band and music work that I was doing at the time, just as a creative outlet. I started as a classical guitarist. I started playing classical guitar around 2009, and I thought, hey, great, YouTube, opportunity to just kind of hone my skills and show off what I've been doing as I'm learning classical guitar and teaching myself. So that's kind of how the channel started. As time went on, I started doing more and more electric videos because that's really what my forte is as a musician. I'm an electric guitar player, and that's what I've always done in most of the bands that I've played in. So the channel kind of evolved into that and grew quite substantially and did really well for a few years up until about 2015 or 2016 when I started slowing down putting up videos. The reason I started slowing down was because I always saw YouTube as a stepping stone to my dream as a musician. And what my dream always was to be able to make ends meet as a musician. It's not an easy thing to do, and it's not something that you can do on your own terms easily a lot of times. As a young guy, I started playing guitar in the year 2000, and I had big dreams of making it big and doing it the way that the media shows, hey, this is how you make it, you know, record deals, touring, and all that stuff. And I did that for a little while. I played in a couple of bands that had opportunities through Sony ATV Publishing, Eastwood Records, did touring, and it wasn't really something that worked out monetarily for me. I mean, I made a little bit here and there, but it wasn't enough to make sure that I had a roof over my head. Around 2015, a friend of mine let me know about a theater company that was in my hometown that was putting on a large tour of Motown Christmas gigs and shows, and they needed a guitar player, and I was like, well, this is cool. This is something I can do through the holidays and make a little extra money. So I auditioned for the job, and I got it, which was awesome. It was a step in a different direction, and I saw possibilities there that I hadn't seen before. Great networking, met a ton of new people, and it was great. What I found out was that these amazing touring musicians that I was playing with at the time, they only bolstered their musical income by playing tours. What they all did in their normal day-to-day lives was serve as either hired musicians at churches or as music directors either in churches or theaters and other opportunities like that. So when I realized that there was a possibility there that, hey, I can actually pay my bills and play guitar every week, I started seeking jobs in that vein. And not a month after I learned that this was a possibility, I took a job as music director at a church in my hometown, and I've been doing that ever since. So for 6 years now, I have been serving my community as a music minister. I've also been able to keep a roof over my head, keep gas in my car, and even though the dream that I initially had as a young guy playing guitar, learning, it might have changed a little bit. The real key for me was being able to adapt and say, hey, you know what, if this avenue's not working, let's try a different one. And for me, it's worked out great because I don't have to worry about a 9-to-5 anymore. I did that. You know, I worked for some of the biggest corporations in the city that I live in, doing web development and graphic design. And while it's something that I do enjoy, it was still not what I loved. And now I'm doing what I love, and my life is a lot less hectic. I can focus on music, and it's been great. And because of that, that is one of the two reasons why I don't put up as many videos anymore. The second reason I've stopped doing videos as often is something that's a little more difficult to talk about. Around the time the pandemic started, and specifically around the time that lockdown started, maybe March or April of 2020, I started having some weird health issues. I started having pains in my stomach and this tightness feeling going on that started to affect my day-to-day life and my ability to function. And it slowly got worse until one day I woke up and I felt like I could barely breathe. I had some really intense chest tightness. My heart was beating like crazy. So I decided, I've got to go to the doctor. Luckily enough, the day that happened, I actually had a doctor's appointment that day. So I went to my doctor's appointment. They took some vitals, and they told me, hey, something's going on here. You should probably go to ER and get checked out. So that's what I did. That day was the day that my life has changed, and it really has changed considerably for the last 2 years, because that day I went to the hospital. They did some x-rays and they told me that I had pneumonia. That was what they could discover based on the limited testing that they did in the ER. They gave me a script of antibiotics and sent me home. Well, I took the antibiotics, fully expecting to start to feel better shortly thereafter. I never did feel better. So for the last 2 years, I have been constantly seeing doctors, specialists of all different disciplines to try to figure out what's been going on with my health. Now, the big question that everybody always has for me is, do you think you have COVID, or did you have long COVID? No. I have had a battery of COVID testing of all sorts of different types. I even had some sort of experimental COVID testing done at the time, very early in the pandemic, to see if that was maybe what was causing it, and the PCR tests or whatever wasn't detecting it. I've never had COVID. I have no COVID antibodies whatsoever. I've never had the jab either, because my doctors advised against it, given my medical condition, that we still, to this day, can't figure out what it is. So that has changed my life in a lot of ways. It's made it very difficult for me to do the things that a normal early 30-year-old guy should be able to do. And it has affected my psyche. It's affected my physicality and things that I can do on a daily basis. And it's really become the focus of my life for the last 2.5 years to try to get some answers. The healthcare industry is frightening. It's a scary thing. You pay for health insurance, whether personally or through your job, and you expect it to help kick in when you have things like this happen. But then you find out, well, because a doctor didn't write this down on a form the correct way, you actually owe $15,000 for this procedure, or this procedure was inconclusive, we need to do it again, and you find yourself having to pay twice for something that should have given you an answer the first time. I've dealt with all of these things in the last 2 years, and it's been debilitating mentally and physically. I've been on a number of medicines recently that have started to make me feel a little better. Of course, it's affected my health in other ways. Weight gain, which is one of the biggest problems. Being tired a lot. So I just want everybody to understand that, I love doing YouTube. I've always loved doing videos and stuff, but real life is a real thing, and it happens for everybody who does YouTube videos, whether they're a small channel like mine or huge people like some of the other guitarists out there that are making it big doing YouTube. It's not that I ever wanted to stop. It's just life happened. And that being said, I really do hope soon to start doing some more content again. I haven't been able to buy as much new gear and demo it as I was able to back when I was younger because of the medical bills and all of those things that have been happening. But a lot of my gear and a lot of the way that I do things has changed a lot over the last few years because I'm working in a church environment now. So I'm excited to show you guys what I do each and every week for my guitar tone, the guitars that I'm using, and just where I'm at right now as a musician. So stay tuned. In a couple weeks, I'm going to have a brand new rig rundown for you guys of what I use every week. I think it's been probably 7 or 8 years since I did one the last time. So that'll be fun. That'll show you how everything that I had from then until now has changed. And maybe we'll kick off the channel again in a new and exciting way. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you, and I hope to see you again soon.